What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Skill up here. As you probably know, every patch we have done a podcast talking about how that patch has landed, and it's no different this time around. I'm joined by some old favorites. I've got Arekkz.
Yo, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm good.
I've got that beautiful Dutch bastard, MarcoStyle.
Yo, what's up? But you said old favorites, although I'm only 21 years old, man.
Oh, please.
Mate, you're old.
This podcast, you're very old now.
It's all downhill from there.
Exactly right. You're past your prime now, Marco. We have Drew, who recently has moved into his new home that he has purchased. He is like a legit homeowner. Please welcome LikeButter.
Thank you for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, congratulations on the house, by the way, man. That's a big deal.
Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Well done. And the very last person has not joined the podcast before. It's Upper Echelon Gaming, Chris from Upper Echelon Gaming. He has been doing like amazing work, putting out just awesome quality build guides. If you haven't checked out his channel before, do so. It's going to be in the description. Upper Echelon Gaming. Chris, hello and welcome.
Hey, man. Thanks for the invite. It's great to be here, and hopefully we can get some good discussion going.
For sure, man. Absolutely. So, patch 1.5 has landed. The headline item was obviously survival. The PlayStation 4 community are getting it this week, which is very exciting, finally. And so I thought it'd be really good for us just to have a bit of a chat about how that patch has landed, talking about obviously the survival game mode and what we think about that, talking about the PvE endgame as it currently exists, some of the sort of build diversity questions that we may want to explore, Alpha Bridge, and any other things that may happen to pop to mind, especially in the context of patch 1.6 coming out, which is going to be that PvP-focused patch. So let's kick off and just talk about how we felt about survival. Let's say maybe Marco, how do you feel? Because obviously, Marco, you put out a video before survival was released saying that some of the mechanics were a bit undertuned. How do you feel the final state of survival looks?
Well, I don't think that survival has changed from the beta version, so to speak, when it was on the PTS. I've got mixed feelings about this. I think survival is great to do a couple of times. You know, maybe when your team's not around, you might want to do a survival run for just an hour. But it's not something that I would see myself playing for about 5 or 6 hours a day like the main game, because what I really like about the game, the main game, is just being able to build your character in different ways, which is kind of a bit ruined because of Alpha Bridge right now, but I'm still able to do it with the healer build and that kind of stuff. And I really just enjoy playing the content, playing PvP in a different way. And survival doesn't really offer that. I mean, yeah, you're fighting different players, but it's the same thing over and over again. You gear up, you get to the dark zone as fast as possible, you get 6 survival caches, and then you kill everybody until you're the last one in the server and extract. That's survival. I don't know.
So is anyone here playing survival regularly? Like, you know, just logging in, playing 1 or 2 games of survival? Who was that, sorry?
That was me.
Oh yeah, Drew, tell us.
I like it a lot. Yeah, it gives me like the battle royale feel from like H1Z1 and the old Armour games and stuff. So I personally like it because of that, and I can see myself playing it. I don't really care about like the rewards I get and stuff. I really like the PvP and survival. It feels good.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the interesting things about survival, I think, is the way that it's kind of like brought a lot of people to the community that you wouldn't have expected. Like, there's been a lot of growth in the game because of survival. Even people like Total Biscuit, who like hates Ubisoft, hated the Division, is kind of like, you know what, this survival thing, it's all right. Like, Arekkz, what do you think it is about the survival game mode that sort of made it successful in that context?
Well, it's the whole, you know, the thing about Division for a lot of these people is that, you know, everyone leads, you know, busy lives and whatnot, but Division requires a certain deal of investment, right? If you don't invest enough time into it, you're going to fall behind. And, you know, it's fair enough. I don't think that's a flaw in the game. You know, that's what happens in these kind of games. It's like trying to play like an MMO and expecting to be at the very end game by playing for 2 hours. So I think survival, you know, it basically means if you haven't played the game, you can jump in, you can have a really cool experience. And I think for a lot of people, if you cast your mind back to say when the game was first revealed, and, you know, we saw like this trailer and this guy trying to, you know, survive in this sort of environment. And while it wasn't survival as an initial like launch trailer, there's definitely kind of those sort of vibes that you got from like one of the initial launch trailers. So I feel like a lot of people are coming back because they feel like this is what Division should have been from the start. So I think in that respect it's accessible. I myself play a fair bit of survival. You know, I haven't in the past kind of couple of weeks, so I've been super busy. But I still really enjoy it. But I do feel like it's not quite reached its full potential. I did a video a while back, kind of talking about what I think like survival should have, and I think like as it exists right now, I don't think they should like. I think if they're going to do any changes, they need to effectively add like another mode. In the same way you can search for PvP and PvE, I think they need to add like another tier to survival, because I think the experience as it is right now is important because it's got a lot of people back into it. There are people that really enjoy it, and it's what I would probably call like battle royale light. I mean, to LikeButter's point, I play a lot of Armour battle royale. I absolutely love it, and that's why when survival first came out, I was like, yeah, this is a chance to get a battle royale fix, which is for the first time like a AAA battle royale fix, which people don't really have. But survival doesn't quite have the feel because there's no, while there is that, while there is the whole, everyone starts at the same place, they have the same gear, you work your way up, there's definitely that feel to it, but there's not the whole lot, there's no actual last man standing mechanic. You don't have to kill people, you don't have to be the last one alive, you can just gradually take your time and get out.
You can play it like that, though.
You can play it like that. You can't. That's the thing, you can play it like it, but the problem with that is that if you want to play it like it, you kind of have to work hard to try and orchestrate that. I feel like there should be an additional mode. Basically, the suggestion I had in the video was effectively add like a heroic playlist for it, which makes it so you spawn in, there's like a single helicopter on a timer, and like only 4 people can get out in the helicopter. It then forces everyone to a central location. It will inherently create those battles that you would have in battle, effectively the circle that shrinks in battle royale. You would have that sort of have a situation. There's of course a lot more to it. The ideas behind having the storm be a lot more vicious to the point where it actually acts as a physical circle, where if you're stuck outside you get killed and things like that. But the point is, I feel like survival needs to have an extra layer, because where it is right now, what they're trying to do and what you can clearly see Ubisoft are trying to do is tap into the battle royale audience, and they've piqued their interest. We've seen people like Lyric playing it and whatnot, but the way the survival exists right now, it's not going to have the same longevity. Like, I still go back to Armour Battle Royale. That game is ancient, and I still play it. Whereas survival, I play a few rounds, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done for today. Let me move on until the next day. So I think it's good.
Exactly.
Great components, but it needs a bit more work.
I see. So what other changes would people want to see in it then? Because I think they were really interesting suggestions. Are there other things that people need to would like to see added or removed from that game mode?
I think
Sorry, Chris, what were you going to say?
Random loot spawns. I think that until they randomize the different loot nodes, it's not going to work as they want it to. It's really not going to have that replayability. Definitely. Because I've memorized my route. Depending on where I spawn and what safe house, I just go straight to the dark zone, and I have all my materials. And it's kind of like there's no RNG element to it. And I know some people actually hate RNG, but in this sense, it would make each playthrough a little bit different, a little bit more diverse, as opposed to kind of memorizing stuff and then having it all laid out for you.
Marco, were you going to say something?
You can't just go into the DZ and snatch all the division tech and then craft high ends and then wait for other people. Like, that's what you can do right now.
Yeah.
Like, where 6 or 7 of the div tech boxes are, you got 14 high ends. Damn it. Bam. Instant full high ends gear.
Yeah.
Well, because it's not survival.
But I was going to say the action is a little too few and far in between. Like, you get a couple kills in the beginning, or you get killed in the beginning. And then it's like silent for about an hour. And then if you want to, then you can start playing or killing other players that extract in the dark zone. You can wait and try to get that PvP going. But other than, the couple of players that you might kill in the beginning and maybe the one player that you might meet somewhere down the line, there isn't a whole lot going on. And that's basically, I think there's either too little players or players spawn too close to each other.
Well, I think it's also like the thing for that. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go.
I want to say the thing about that is, it's the nature of the design. Again, like Butter, you'll be familiar with this. Like H1Z1, Armour, they work around. You drop in a map. There's a circle that spawns, and you have to keep working. This circle gets progressively smaller. If you stay outside it, you die. Yeah. And what survival needs a form of that. It doesn't have to be a physical circle. The best way to kind of do it would be to make the storm that is outside. It gets more and more severe. And then as time goes by, and if you're caught outside, instead of it gradually moving your health down, it just outright kills you. And then, because what you have when you have a circle like that in Battle Royale is, people check their map, they're like, all right, I have to balance scavenging with moving in. And because you're constantly moving in, you force people closer. So those engagements get more and more frequent the closer you get to the center. At the very beginning, you have very few engagements. Whereas, afterwards, you get to that point where... And the thing is that adds to the whole adrenaline, because you've got to... There's so many things you have to juggle then. You have to, you have to loot, you have to gear up appropriately, you have to keep moving. And then once you get to the center, you then need to, be in the last man alive, knowing that, for example, if there was, one of the easiest ways to do it, because the thing that I proposed before uses in-game mechanics. They wouldn't have to create new mechanics, so to speak. They can use assets that are already in survival. If you have a single helicopter, And then people are going to start, you get to the point where the circle is so small that people are literally like, you might have the whole server at, say, Bryant Park, and everyone's having to have like an insane engagement because that only a few people can get out, and that's going to create those sort of really cool battle royale moments. And that's what I think. If Survival had that, I would play it like no end.
Yeah. That would be super cool. Right now, it's like you're sometimes you're not even in the dark zone yet. You're just getting some blues, getting some purples to get in the dark zone if you want to go that route. And then in the middle of your screen, you see 5 players remaining, and you're like, oh, pleb server. I gotta like this for the next hour. I'm not gonna have any PvP. I literally have to. It's just not a whole lot of action going on.
No, true.
Are there any elements of survival that you think should be brought into the main game? Drew, have you got any thoughts on that?
You mean like the whole survival aspect of like looting up and then just seeing how long you can last, like what I think a lot of people thought the game was in the beginning. Like when I first saw the trailer for The Division, I thought it was going to be like a survival game like DayZ, where you had to go out and you had to loot up gear and then fight, and then you either keep your gear and you loot someone else or you die. I honestly think that would be like a really cool mode if there was some sort of way to incorporate that into the full game. But as far as survival, I think you're like right on exactly how I feel about it. I need more PvP and more escalation when the game gets further in the end game. There's not that escalation, like that final fight, unless you go out and try to get it. You know what I mean? Like you have to actually go out of your way. And I can't tell you how many times I've been like either in the bottom of the dark zone or the top of the dark zone. I got to run across the entire map just to get some PvP. And there's really no benefit of even doing that except just killing another player and ruining their day. So like, I really wish that there was like a hardcore mode where it would, have a circle on the map where it would move people in there, and there's only, like you said, 4 people getting out. That would be cool. I hope they work on that, because I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but Hamish did say that survival is something that they could see working on in the future and adding things to. So I really hope they take that serious and realize like what a good thing they got going. We need more players though. I don't know if like the 24, because I know that the Dark Zone has 24 people. It's like a 24-person limit. It's been known since the game came out. I don't know if they can't go higher than that, but it would be really nice to see them go to even 32 or 36 players, and I think it would create a lot more action. Yeah,
64 player. That's what
I'll be down.
I don't know if the servers would be able to handle it, but that would be amazing.
We'll get Dice's netcode involved.
Yeah.
Battlefield 1 netcode, by the way, not Battlefield 4. All right, so final thoughts on survival then. Anything that we'd like to say wrapping up? Anything that hasn't been covered?
I just hope they expand the hunter archetypes and bring them into other aspects of the game. Now that we know that they can create difficulty with an NPC that acts like a player and has skills, I would love to see that popping up in the Dark Zone, like in the Persistent World. Even something like a group-style Persistent World event where hunters spawn in, and then you have to possibly group up with other people in the Light Zone. No PvP enabled, but you'd have to tackle these harder NPCs that have skills and are like defending an objective. I don't know. I just would love to see them expand on that.
Yeah.
See, that's something I'd want to see in the Dark Zone, honestly. Like, you know how every hour you have the supply drops and like sometimes you get fights there? Like, I think that would be a cool element if there was like a high value target in the Dark Zone where a hunter would spawn in and the first group that killed it got some sort of loot, and you would have like these huge fights in a certain corner of the map while also have to jungling the fact that the hunters are there and stuff. I think that would be amazing.
I think one of the things that I would like to see taken from survival and added to the main game is the hunters, and specifically like I really want another tier of difficulty in PvE content, because obviously that's totally my jam. And and I really feel like if you just had like the missions that we have today and kind of restructured them a little bit to add in hunters and built those encounters around hunters in those missions, like that feels like another tier of content right there, because the way those enemies are tuned is just awesome, So I don't know. Personally, I'd love to see them use a lot more on the PvE side of the game as well.
How about the hunter?
Have you
hunter
done
expansion?
Go on. Sorry. I was going to ask if SkillUp did the incursions this patch yet.
Yeah, I have.
Dude, the incursions are actually really hard. I was surprised, but
they are.
But the thing is that there's no like benefit to doing them. Like, they give you like a couple hundred Phoenix credits, and like the drops are awful. Like, I would really like to see them incorporate some sort of like incursion specific gear, or maybe if we get raids in the future, like that would be really cool. But as it stands right now,
what incursion did you play?
We did today we did Clear Sky, which is like really difficult, and then we also like they changed up the turret. Yeah, dude. Have you? When's the last time you played it?
It's definitely a step
I've
up.
grinded Clear Sky since 1.5 like so many times. You did
I
some
don't know.
5-minute run.
We were struggling with it today. It was like the turret on the chopper does so much more damage than it used to. It like hits you like the LMB turrets do.
Yeah,
that's
you
crazy
pop a green and you pop a blue in the middle, and then two people walk the box at the same time, and then you pop another blue and a yellow when the boss drops, and the mission's done.
Yeah,
like,
we might have been doing it differently. I don't know, but it was fucking difficult.
I do agree though. I do agree that like one of the things they should have kept was sort of like incursion and specific gear, because I appreciate there are some people out there that don't necessarily want to do incursions and they still want to be able to get that gear. But if you look at like how other games do it, for example, you know, you look at Destiny or you look at World of Warcraft, there's, you know, you don't get raid gear by not doing a raid, right? Like there needs to be some kind of, because that's one of the things that's effectively removed. Like the game, I mean, I know there's something you want to go and get onto anyway, skill up, but you know, the kind of notion of endgame by adopting this new loot system where you can get everything from anywhere. You like, you know, anytime someone comes into Twitch chat, they're like, hey, where do I go to farm Alpha Bridge? I'm like, go wherever you want because it drops everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, by doing that, you've literally got to the point where someone's like, all right, so I could spend time going to an incursion to farm this stuff, or I could just do underground, which will take me 2 minutes to complete on hard mode, get the same drops, and Bob's your uncle. You know, I'm getting cash at the same time. So I feel like there does need to. Yeah, I completely agree. There needs to be some sort of exclusive gear set tied to an activity, because then that creates the end game, right? It gives it's not a complete end game, but it at least starts to kind of structure out the end game, because it then means if you want to get this, you have to go here. If you want to get this, you have to go here. And by having everything from everywhere, then yeah, it's a bit of a mess because it's just literally like, I mean, yeah, it suits people that don't necessarily have as much time, and you know, I can completely appreciate that you need to kind of cater to both audiences, but I feel like having absolutely everything accessible kind of removes that. So yeah, that's something that they need to work on.
Yes, that's probably a good segue then, because we're finishing up with our conversation on survival, talking about you know, how the PvE endgame looks. How do we feel about the current state of the PvE endgame at this point? And obviously, like, what do we want to see change in that? I know we always talk about like
raids.
This game needs raids, and we do that every single podcast. So keen to stay away from that, because I know we all agree that we would like to see some sort of raid activity. But broadly speaking, Chris, for example, what do you think of the current state of the PvE endgame?
Well, I only use PvE as a tool to spec my character out to then PvP, so I don't really participate a ton in what is currently the end game of PvE. However, I think that the number one thing that they need is kind of like a Rift-style group event that pops up randomly, kind of like what we have in the Dark Zone already with supply drops, but bigger. For instance, one of the open world bosses would have multiple of them. They'd have more health, they'd have more damage. And you would have to bring your friends in if you wanted to then beat them and get a large, you know, amount of rewards. I also think that to make PvE a little bit more, I guess, appealing to PvP players like myself, you can just add vanity items, cosmetic items, skins, etc., that are very difficult to get and from certain PvE activities. I will farm, you know, for days to get that really cool cosmetic piece of gear that I can go into the Dark Zone and, you know, feel unique with. But that's just me. That's a vanity thing.
Let's be real, guys. There's one PvE endgame right now. It's Larray Barett's chest piece. That is the entire game at this point from a PvE perspective. So my question is, do we think that the way that they've done Larray's chest piece is good or bad? Because there's never been an item in the game that has had as much of an impact on the end game as Larray's chest piece. Not in terms of the item design, but on the kind of behaviors that it forces from players. Like, you literally have people running Lexington 200 times trying to get this drop and hoping that when it does drop, it has good stats. So my question is, Arekkz, is this good or bad for the game?
So it's a mixture, right? I personally don't think, and I know people will probably disagree with me. I don't like the drop rates, right? And it's like, I mean, some people said before, you know, in their defense, they were like, well, you know, you need to have some kind of difficulty aspect. It's like, it's not difficult. There's nothing difficult about getting their chest piece. Like, you can run that mission in what, like 8 minutes or whatever it is. It's literally just like making people do something time and time again. For the problem with having a drop rate like that, right? It would be all right if it was that rare, if it had a fixed drop, like you knew that it dropped with X stamina, X firearms, X perks, and it doesn't change at all. But because RNG is such a heavy factor in this game, and if you farm, like imagine if you farm for 200 times, and you get a crap roll, and you're like, well, what the hell? Like, I've got to go and do it again. Like, you're not going to want to do it, right? That's not enjoyable. That is not an enjoyable end game. Like, for example, end game should be something that makes you want to come back, right? End game is not, let me go and do another Lexington because bloody hell, I hate this thing, but I've got nothing else to do, right? So, personally, no, I don't think it's... I mean, I like the idea of rare items. I love the idea of rare items. You know, I think it's important to have items that are harder to get, that not necessarily everyone does have, because otherwise you do get to the point where everyone is the same, right? So I'm completely on board with having things to be rare, but they need to kind of work on an appropriate balance. Like, if it's going to be that rare, it needs to have a fixed drop, or if it's not going to have a fixed drop, then you need to increase the drop. You need to increase the drop rate, because that's just like doesn't quite work as it is. But I mean, if they're kind of hoping to give us like a 1% drop rate just to try and sort of falsely create an end game that isn't there, that's not the right attitude. I mean, like that's temporarily biding people's time. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the items. I like what they've done. But yeah, I don't think they're quite right just yet.
So, Marco, what do you think of this, man? Is Laray's chess piece and the way they've implemented good or bad for the game?
No, I think it's one of the worst ways they could have gone. It's basically 1.1 all over again. You're grinding the one thing that everybody doesn't like doing because they've done it so many times for the chance of having this item, which might have bad stat rolls already. I mean, just look at 1.1 Falcon Lost. Everybody was doing that. And a week in, everybody was tired and sick of it. Nobody right now wants to play Falcon Lost because of how often they've already done it in the past, just for a chance to get, I think it was sentries back then. That was the must thing that you would have. And I don't think that any item in the game should have such an impact that everybody would want to have that. Like, I think that all the gear set items should be almost equally strong, and you should get them from almost all sources, and that some things don't drop as often as others. You know, I'm completely fine with that. But forcing people to do the one mission over and over and over again with such a small drop chance, which it's just terrible. It's not fun. People are not playing Lexington that often for fun. And I honestly don't see the benefit of it. Yeah, you make players play for a bit longer, but...
I think it's also worth adding to that as well. The one thing that I forgot to mention was that, like, because there is such an obvious lack of like a true end game, like at the moment, you know, you think to yourself, every single time an update comes out, if they increase the gear score, like that's why I spent a lot more time. Say when 1.5 came out, I spent a lot more time playing survival, and I didn't actually start gearing up properly until about 3 or 4 weeks after, because I was like, well, what am I actually gearing up for? Like, why am I actually trying to hit 256 with a finely tuned min-max build? Like, sure, you can go in PvP, so but besides...
Kill people in the DZ?
Yeah, but realistically, it's like... No, but that's not like a proper endgame. Think about it like more so. For someone that doesn't want a DZ, for someone that doesn't want a PvP, like, if you're a PvE player, why are you actually finely tuned min-maxing your build? Because, sure, it'll make
Exactly.
Yeah, it'll make those activities quicker, but they're still not endgame. Like, I wouldn't... You know what? I wouldn't mind grinding for Laray's chess piece if I knew that once I got it, the like... true end game then became easier because I had it. Like, I would then be grinding Laray's for a means to an end. But right now, it's like, I've got the chess piece.
Arekkz, I get questions every day. You probably as well. Like, everybody here probably gets questions about people asking them, hey, can you do a perfect build for PvE? Or can you make a PvE build on your channel or something like that? And my answer is always the same. Why would you want a PvE build? Because with any random crappy gear item or like anything random, you can just do the PvE.
But see,
you know, you don't need to do.
But I really disagree with that, right? Because as a PvE-focused player in this game, I have to find meaning where I can, and like I really enjoy the process of making different PvE-focused builds and playing through the content in different ways. Like that actually, I enjoy that.
That is why I build. That's the same argument I brought up as to why I don't like survival and why I like the main game more, because you get to play it in different ways, but you don't have to. Somebody that doesn't necessarily want to have 5 different builds and try to play the game in a different way, they can just build any random thing and just play,
Absolutely.
play through the content.
But that's the nature of any looter, though. Like any looter, be it Borderlands or Diablo or Path of Exile or whatever, you don't have to do anything to be able to get through the content. You're going to get through it. It's just a case of like, what's the funnest way for you to get through that content?
That's not necessarily true, because in all those games you have content that you cannot play because you simply aren't geared enough to do it, and that's not something that the Division has right now.
No, well,
Because you
absolutely.
don't
At the
need-
upper echelons of those games, there's content that's tuned for specific gear styles. True. And what I'm saying is that I'm going to assume that that sort of stuff is coming in the Division in the future. They have to create these like highly challenging, highly curated PvE experiences for us.
I hope you're right, but I feel that that's what they tried to do with the incursions, and it didn't work.
True. I agree with you. It didn't work, but I'm assuming that there's going to be some year 2 content, and when they do that, I'm assuming that they're going to have to focus on the PvE endgame at some point. And then, yes, we're going to have to go for those min-max builds that really ask you to play in a specific way to break that content because it's so tuned, right?
Yeah.
But before that point, I'm happy just running my HVTs and being able to use some ridiculous Firecrest build that I can cast my Seeker Mines every 2.5 seconds. It's fun.
Now
you know?
I've got the question. Now I've got the question for you. What if, let's say, it's not going to happen, but what if in 1.6 they would bring that type of content? Let's say they bring another incursion out and you do need that optimized min-max content.
Yeah.
Will players not start complaining again because of the same reasons why they started complaining that incursions were too hard?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible that that people are going to think, well, you're funneling us into specific builds and play styles for that really challenging content. That's not fun. And I mean, I kind of at that point would say, well, fair's fair. I mean, I really, as a developer, it would be, I feel, impossible to properly balance and finely tune content when you have to accommodate like an infinite number of play styles. I think you have to assume you have to assume that there's going to be 4 to 6 set styles of play, or gear set styles, and then you build your content around that. Because I think if you just had an open slather, hoping that anything you produce is going to be challenging versus a tank with 700k toughness back in the day, or a glass cannon with like however much DPS, that just doesn't work. Like they just need to assume a certain amount of stat distribution. They need to assume certain play styles and say, let's tune for that, because they need some structure as designers. Do you know what I mean?
I understand.
So I mean, look, that's us fingers crossed, hoping that there's going to be that sort of stuff in the future. I think they will. I mean, Massive have said that that they want more challenging PvE endgame content. Like they said that they're thinking about that. And as they haven't confirmed any year 2 content yet, but I'm pretty sure it's on the way. And they have to do something in the PvE space because it's just a dire need at this point. Like as I said, as fun as it is for me to run around doing HVTs with my stupid builds, I also at the same time think, man, this is probably going to get boring one day. Do you know what I mean? Like even I know that, So I think we're going to need something at some point. But yeah. So what about anything else, like Drew or Chris? Anything else you guys wanted to see change about the current PvE endgame?
Yeah, there needs to be more difficult content, like more content directed at the hardcore players that want to, get a group together and have people play different roles in that group. Like whether, like just content where you need a support, you need a damage dealer, you need a tank, you need somebody that is going to build a lot of toughness, that's going to build a lot of increased threat so that he can tank more damage. There's no like end game PvE content right now where you need to have a perfect team comp in order to do it. So yeah, you guys are right. You guys pretty much know more about PvE than I do, but I enjoyed the PvE a lot, to be honest. Like even in 1.4 and 1.5, just playing through, like you said, the HVTs, and today we just went through some incursions, and I like getting gear from the PvE world. There needs to be more hardcore hardcore end game for the people that really want to do that. So
yeah, I agree. There should be increased role responsibilities. There's not enough role responsibilities now, so you're not required to have a tank. You're not required to have a support. All 4 people can slap on a DPS build and everything's easy. And as soon as they start to introduce, healers, like I love MarcoStyle's Reclaimer healer build, throwing out those 270,000 heals. I mean, that being required to complete PvE content would be fantastic, because then you have to like mix and match with the people that you group up with. And it would put a new element of difficulty in that isn't necessarily
how many people would be complaining? How many people?
Yeah, I know. That's very
how,
true.
Game too hard. Not enough stuff for casual.
That's how Falcon Lost was, and I like that about Falcon Lost a lot. That you needed like that person with that maxed out like smart cover and that damage dealer and that sentry user who's going to hit the 1 million crits. Like I miss those role playing.
The problem back then is that there was no other way to get. There was no way
loot
to
drops.
There was no way to get the gear to be able to do Falcon Lost the right way.
Right.
So that was kind of the gap.
But there was also no difficulties in that back then as well, in the sense that like there was one difficulty.
Hard and challenge mode.
But if you wanted end game gear, if you wanted the best gear, you had to do it on the hardest difficulty. Full stop, right?
Yeah.
Now you can still get the best gear. You just get less of it by doing it on the easier difficulty. And I think this is something that still has not quite sunk in yet, in the sense that like people worry that if we do this harder PvE content, that they're going to be pushed out of the gear endgame, that they're not going to get their stuff, because it's like, well, only hardcore players will get their stuff. No, everyone will get their stuff. You'll just get it slightly slower than the people that are really hardcore. And I think that is something the developers really need to lean into. Like the whole, worrying about, focusing on hardcores, I really feel like we're past that a little bit now. Like everyone knows with the current PvE endgame that there's nothing remotely challenging for hardcore PvE players, and that is not sustainable. Like those people will just leave the game. You need to add something to that, and you need to be willing to look your community in the eye and say, guys, you're still going to get the gear that you want, just other people who play this game more than you are going to get it faster, which makes perfect sense. So I really hope that the developers go down that path, because I really would hate to see them held hostage by a section of the community that feels like, oh, I have the right to do the hardest content no matter what all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like
the thing is, you don't even necessarily have to have like the same gear. Like the important thing to kind of make sure is that people can kind of reach the same level. They don't necessarily have to have the same gear. I mean, I wouldn't mind, right? And I think the unfortunate reality is people need to realize sometimes content has to come out for a particular group of players. Like you can't gear the second you try and make sure everything caters to everybody, then you lose a certain element of it, right?
It caters to nobody.
Yeah, exactly. So
Exactly.
there will be some content that if you're gonna make like an ultra hard end game content, yes, there'll be some players that don't play it. Yes, there'll be some players that don't enjoy it. But unfortunately, that's kind of how the important thing to make sure is that those players then have something they can still do, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
What they've been doing, what has happened a lot of the time in expansions, because they've been quite small. It's like normally there's been like one focal thing. There's like been an incursion. So if people don't do it, they haven't got anything else to go to. So like in a true if we're looking to say like year 2, in a true kind of way to fix it would be like, right, here's your stuff for your hardcore guys to go and do. If you don't want to do that, then you still got some stuff over here you can do. And it wouldn't be a problem if you were like, hey, this activity, this ultra hardcore activity has a gear set that can only come from here, right? And if you want to do it, you have to go there. I don't think that's a bad thing, right? The important thing is to make sure those gear sets are balanced, right? If it becomes a problem if that one gear set you get from that ultra hard activity is the most powerful gear set in the game. If it just allows you to play a different way and people can get like a different gear set from somewhere else, that's not difficult. That's not a problem, because you get, games do that. You have raid gear, you have gear that comes from PvP, you have gear that comes from other places. And I don't think that's, lots of games have done it in the past. It hasn't proved to be a problem. So I don't
think that would work in the Division, to be honest, because then you have the same
as
the Barett vest right now.
It depends how you design the gear sets, right? Like, I mean, if they're always designed around like one is infinitely more powerful than the other ones, but like one of the things that I've wanted to see from the start is that gear sets are built more around interesting ways to play that don't necessarily offer like insane damage boosts over another set. Instead, they just allow you to play a way that you couldn't if you didn't have that set. That's kind of what I'd be more interested in seeing.
Yeah, like they could also go with cosmetics too. Like if you had like a raid or an incursion or any type of activity where you had the hardcore players that would do like the really hardcore content, and then even if the cosmetic was just different on the items that you got in that content, for example, like say you could get Luray's chest piece, but it's gold. It has gold plating on it or something to reward the people that do the hardcore, but doesn't necessarily give you a statistical advantage over people who just get the loot in the lower, the lower difficulties. I think they could do a lot of stuff with, because I would do that because I would like to, show off those cosmetics when I'm PvPing or PvEing. That's what I loved about Barett's chest piece is like the X across it looks so cool. Like they need to do more with that.
So what I would really like to see in just one more thing. What I would really like to see for these hardcore activities for the 4-man groups is not unique gear sets. It's not unique stuff that other players cannot get, because then you get the problem with I cannot get this. It's overpowered. Yada yada yada. Even though it's not overpowered. No, what I would like to see from those is more targeted loot. So being able to target specific items that you still have to farm. so that it would be an efficient way of getting those last few pieces that you might need, those last few high rolled stats. And you can only do that by doing the hardest content in the game. And you're not getting anything unique that someone else might never be able to get that way. I think that would work better in a division than gear that you cannot get any other way, even though it's not overpowered.
So just segueing back very quickly, because I know we mentioned Lorraine's chest piece before, we kind of agree that Lorraine's is a problem at the moment in the way that it's implemented, but it's only a problem because it's so damn strong. If the item was not as powerful as it was, we wouldn't be running Lexington 200 times in order to get it. So I have a specific question about Lorraine's chest piece in terms of like, what do we do with this item? Is this item actually fine in the way that it's currently designed and we just need to up the drop rate, or do we actually need to change the design of that item? So Chris, have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I really like the item, but I do agree that it's overpowered. The reason I love that item, and I want to see a lot more items in that same vein, is because it has the 3 different bonuses and only one can be active. That means that you get to choose at any one time what you want to be active, and play differently at different times to do different things. I would love to see every single piece of gear have both like a rogue and non-rogue bonus, or like different gear sets, like Banshee, rogue and non-rogue bonuses, but that one is in particular too strong. I think they need to rework armor. It's kind of been that way for a long time because 10% extra armor just is way too much, especially in tandem with all the different talents and things like that. You have mitigation bonuses left, right, and center, and you can combine them all to become way too tanky, and then they have to balance for you being that tanky, and it just creates all these different problems. So I think that the bonus needs to be changed, but I like the format and the idea behind it and the whole different talents that are interacting.
Yeah, the armor is the only thing that makes it OP. The way armor is in the game, where it's mitigation, giving 10% on top of what everyone is building, all armor, you're going to get so much value from that. I think if you look at it, like the skill power you get, I think I ended up getting like 8,000 more skill power. The 5% more damage, I don't even think that's a big deal. I think if they rework armor, like the chest piece will be fine. The armor needs to get reworked bad.
Armor in itself just needs to be reworked.
Totally
Like, armor as an entity in this game is just so badly implemented.
Mitigation is such a bad way to implement armor.
I think it needs to be one of two things. It either needs to be there needs to be no armor at all, or you're gonna, if you have it, kind of sort of like slightly leaning on what you kind of mentioned before, LikeButter, about kind of having an actual armor bar, because I would rather it function as a shield and not as, because the one thing you need to kind of bear in mind as well is, like, for the wider player base, if people don't necessarily kind of go digging deep into the menu, they take sheet numbers as gospel, right? They take their sheet DPS as what damage they're doing. They take their sheet toughness as how tough they really are, and while I appreciate that you can kind of go to the character page and you can actually get the granularity you want, I think there should still be some value in that sheet page, right? And a lot of people, they can look at that and they're so misled. I think the way that armor and health combine to give you that toughness value is just so wrong. Like, I think it should either just be, right, completely get rid of armor because it's just like, you just don't need it, and just have health. Like, whatever you see in that health value is your health, or have it more so is, because the one thing that you don't get, right, and this is the one thing that I don't like about armor, is I look at games like, say, Halo, for example, games that have shields, right? And then you behave very differently, because when, like, in Halo, the second your shield drops, you drop back. You're like, crap, I've got no shield. You don't even think about relying on your health. The second your shield goes down, any good Halo player, or, like, well, I say that, I'm not really a good Halo player, but I would, from, like, any, like, remotely decent Halo player, would, they'll drop back and be like, let my shield recover, because you know that without shield, you're pretty squishy. Right, whereas in the Division, because you don't know how, like, I mean, you know from a percentage, like, I know, for example, my build's got like 58% armor or something like that, right? But when you're in battle, you don't know, alright, I'm being shot at right now, I'm on armor or I'm on health. There is no differentiation. You've just got a health pool, and two people could be on 500k, but one might be on 500k with better armor. So those two values don't actually match up, right? Which is just completely wrong. So you should definitely...
You never know what you're shooting.
Exactly,
You don't know how tanky a player is going to be until you're already shooting them. And
totally.
Then, like, you have all these other, like, I don't even want to get into it, but the player talents right now. Have you guys seen how OP that is currently?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Dude, like, if you pop critical save...
Oh, critical save and stuff. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it just turns your toughness into, like, 2 million. Like, that can't happen in PvP.
It also created...
But it's been like that since launch.
Yeah, no, it has. Yeah, I mean, armor's never been right, but, like, it would also create an interesting way to actually play the game, because if you had, like, for example, if they wanted to keep armor and you actually had it function more like a shield, and it was actually a visible bar you could see, then you would be able to you manage it like a second health bar, right? You'd be like, all right, my armor's dropped down. I should probably back off because I know that my health pool is considerably weaker, right? So you would actually play differently because you can at least that way you can see it. So yeah, I'm very much it's binary for me. It's either get rid of it or completely change it to be something else. But yeah, the way it is right now is just and I mean having to roll it was great because when they brought back build diversity and everyone was like, oh yeah, you can mess around with anything, it was really fun. And then when it's like actually you need to roll armor on absolutely everything if you want to stay alive. It's just suddenly narrowed that pool straight back down again.
So we agree that Loray's chest piece is a cool item, and it probably doesn't need to be nerfed. It's actually the armor that needs to be nerfed.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Changed.
Totally.
Did you just say nerf scale up?
No, I don't talk about nerfs, Marco. I don't use that word, all right? That's just not me. I'm really interested to hear about what you guys think of the newly added weapons to the game. We had there was a new SMG, the USC, there was an M700 sniper rifle, an MG5 LMG, there was the FAMAS and the Rhino, the 5 weapons, as well as some of the named weapons. Yeah, I was going to say the named weapons like the Urban MDR, the Thompson, the Golden Rhino, and what else? I know I've definitely forgot another one of the Tommy guns, that's for sure. And yeah, so what do you guys think? What do you guys think of the newly added items? Arekkz, I know you got your hands on, say, the Urban MDR. What do you think of that one?
Well, Urban MDR is a sore topic for me because you and I were at E3. We both went hands on with the blind rifle. That thing was so good. Literally, it would if they put it in the game, everyone would just be it would be the new G36 when it first came out. It dropped things like flies.
Yeah, it was disgustingly overpowered.
Yeah,
disgusting.
So when they announced the Urban MDR come back, I was like, hold on, is this the blind rifle? And I farmed for days and I got it. When I got it, and I was like, okay, it's not quite as good as it used to. I mean, the thing is, right? I built my build, right? I built my Firecrest build, right, specifically to make the MDR work. This is the thing, right? The MDR, the numbers on it are pretty low, right? And if you use it as just like any other weapon in the game, well, not any other weapon, but G36, you can pick it up and you might not be spec for it, but it'll do pretty well. The MDR, unless you absolutely spec for it, it's not a very good weapon. And even when you spec for it, you're probably better off using the other weapon. I went out of my way to make a build that made it work just because I was like, I've waited for this weapon for so damn long that I'm going to use it. I like it though. I like it because it's different, right? It's cool to use. It feels really cool to use. It sounds awesome. It's a really nice weapon, and I like the interesting talent on it. It's the whole kind of working with status effects because it promotes people to play different ways. I like that. I mean, kind of tapping into what you said earlier about you like building different builds that kind of let you play different ways. That's why I like the Urban MDR. But yeah, after going from blind to Urban MDR, I was I'm sad.
Marco, what do you think of the newly added crop of weapons?
The Urban MDR, man, it's not too good. I mean, it's an SPD, but it's an SPD with half the damage. So I don't know, it's not too good. The only weapon that I really like, apart from the FAMAS and Alpha Bridge, of course, is the M700. Simply because you can use it with Alpha Bridge. And another sniper, use Provident with it, and just all those damage talents, and just one-shot anyone running around with 500k toughness. It's complete cheese. But other than
one-shot
that,
cheese is Marco's. That's what you love about that weapon, Marco.
Yeah. But other than that, I feel like every single named weapon is just quite underwhelming in terms of damage, and I just wouldn't use it at all.
Yeah, sure. Chris, what do you think of the newly added weapons, man?
I'm pretty much cool with everything. Like you guys have been saying, they're a little bit underwhelming. But then what I really disagree with is the new SMG talent. Now, not because it's too powerful and not because everybody's using it. I mean, let's be real, everybody's using Assault Rifle Alpha Bridge. But because they're in a tactical cover-based shooter, now incentivizing people to not use cover. Because Ambusher deals more damage to people in cover. And in a game where we don't use cover enough, I mean, we're supposed to be taking cover. PvP encounters are everybody running around in circles 5 feet away from each other. There's no strategy, there's no tactics, there's no nothing. And now they're putting in a mechanic that deals more damage if you use cover. I would like to see that removed immediately, and I would like to see more things that incentivize you to use cover.
What about the talent that gives more damage when you're hip firing on the Tommy gun? 11% more hip fire damage.
I haven't gotten the Tommy gun yet, so I don't know.
I haven't got that yet, sadly.
Yeah, I haven't gotten.
It's ridiculous that those talents exist in the game.
Yeah. What about you, Drew? Any thoughts on the weapons?
I think it's kind of funny that you guys said that the named weapons are always underwhelming, and I feel like the reason the named weapons are always kind of bad is because like I feel like they're scared to make them good for the same reason that we're talking about Barett's chest piece being too strong. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like they're really scared to make a named weapon strong because of that. But I mean, if Barett's like, I love the idea of the really rare items. I love it. I feel like I might be the only one that thinks this way, but I love that Barett's chess piece is that rare because it gives people something to constantly go for. Like I never felt like I had everything in the game because I still have these named items, and I hope they keep adding them. But the new weapons, like the Tommy gun, is really underwhelming because SMGs are very weak currently. It sounds amazing though, and it looks amazing. The MDR, I've actually been using it recently with my Sentry build, and it's been doing really well. But I think that's funny. Like how come they're too scared to make the weapon strong, but then you have like Barett's chest piece and like Colonel Bliss's holster, which are like extremely overpowered, like hard to get as well. I don't know. It's like it seems weird to like be too scared to make the named weapons strong. I don't know. I kind of wish they were a little better.
Yeah, they're all over the place. Remember when they announced it and it was 100% increased damage way back in the day to targets with status effects, and it had like 1,000 RPM, and then to go from that down to 10% increased damage and 350 RPM and lower base damage. I mean, it's like both complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think you're right. I think they're scared to do it, but I just don't understand why they're so scared to do it that they make an item that's kind of not even.
That's probably because it was supposed to come out in 1.2 when like all the NPCs had like 30 million health.
Yeah.
That's true.
Exactly. Marco, you gonna say something?
I don't think it would be a problem if it was still 100%. The base damage and RPM of that weapon is so low.
Yeah.
And then if it was 100%, it would be a good weapon pickup for a Firecrest or Predator's Mark build.
Well, especially
right now, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, can I just say, I really feel like the way that they've implemented this crop of weapons has actually been really good. They're underwhelming at the beginning, and my major concern with anything that Massive does right now, like I love Massive, don't get me wrong, but they are not particularly great at balancing their game. And I really hate seeing stuff dropped into the game that is overcooked. And I really hate seeing it get nerfed afterwards. You guys know I have no issue calling for nerfs. When something is overpowered, it needs to be nerfed, no question. But the better sort of like the better way to implement it is to slightly undertune it so that the community can get their hands on it and test it. And then after that, bring the numbers up so that everyone's like, yeah, cool, that's great. I get a nice buff out of this weapon. I'm cool with that. Rather than the opposite, which is everyone farms for it. Everyone builds around it. Everyone goes nuts for it.
Nerfed.
And then when it gets nerfed, everyone loses their fucking minds. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know why it's so hard to balance these weapons in the division? It's because of the way that they skill firearms. Has 1.3% extra damage on the base per firearm point, right? We all know this. This is common sense for us. But then that doesn't change per gear score. So if you have a gear score 163 LVOAC, it has 1.3% extra damage per firearms. The 256 variant still does the same. Now what this causes is that firearms at different role tiers do a lot more for specific weapons than for others. So while one patch, this weapon might be good, maybe too good, Massive thinks, hey, we gotta nerf this by 6%, small nerf. Well, the next patch, because everybody starts off with different firearms because we get different gear, that weapon wasn't gonna be that good to begin with because of the way that it scales. And I think, unless they change that whole system, I don't think we're ever gonna see a true weapon balance.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't feel like the current weapon balance issues in the past have been because of scaling issues. I think it's just to do with the tuning of the numbers. I mean, in the sense that
have you done the math?
Well,
Speccing into firearms at gear score 163, like getting max firearms, for example, would give your weapon, let's say, for example, a 70% damage bonus. But then doing that exact same thing for the exact same weapon on gear score 256, it gives you a 120% damage boost. 70% to 120. That's really weird.
For sure. I just feel like there's a lot of different tools that are available to Massive when they talk about how to balance a weapon. There's your RPM, and there's your time for it to reach max accuracy, and your stability, and all these sorts of things. So it's not just a a function of the base, firearm scaling amount when it comes to weapon tuning. So I hear what you're saying; it makes sense. But I'm saying that all the tools that are available to Massive with regards to how to balance their weapons, I really don't feel like they're using many of them correctly, and I really feel like that's sort of the broader issue rather than just the base numbers. But anyway, listen, let's move on. Let's talk very quickly about the only gear set that was added to the game, the frontline gear set. That was the only one that was added in patch 1.5. What do you guys think of that gear set? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Have you used it much? Any thoughts? Maybe Arekkz, have you tried it out?
Yeah, I actually got it in the PTS, like a build guide on it then. I really like it, to be honest, just because, like, I've been trying to use the shield since, like, day one. Obviously, I know Marco had some, like, successful shield builds anyway, but just, like, generally speaking, like, it's just nice to have something that's properly geared around the shield to almost, because I think sometimes for people to try different things, for example, Marco's shield build was great, right? But like until people started talking about it, like people weren't necessarily trying those things. But when you have a build that's like, hey, I'm a shield build, it's very obvious that this is what I'm geared for. People start to try these things. And it's just a really fun way to play. Again, it kind of taps into what you were saying before about it's just a different way to play. It's really cool. In fact, like myself and 269 have been messing around recently with just using it as a 3-piece and then running it with a sidearm. It's actually quite fun, just as like that. But I mean, yeah, I just think it's cool. It's different. It's strong, but potentially not kind of completely broken way. I know you have a different opinion because I know you have a video, but at least from just a general utility point of view, it's kind of one of those things that will be good, but I don't feel like everyone's suddenly going to start flocking towards it and be like, oh, this is the be-all and end-all, I need to have this set. But you could be like, oh, hey, I can pick it up, have some fun with it. So yeah, I like it. I think it's cool.
Nice. And Chris, I know you did a build on this as well. What are your thoughts on it?
I really like it. It's really fun to use. It is a little bit too strong in PvE. I'm not necessarily calling for a nerf per se, but it's really easy to progress through content regardless of how much damage the MP do. Yeah. But I'm also extremely confused why you can still crit. You can just run Savage Gloves and the Precision Talent, or have somebody with a Pulse, and you can crit basically as normal and not sacrifice that bonus. So I don't know if that's intended or not, or why it's applying after, or what the deal is, but that's kind of disconcerting to me because it's taking a gear set that would have been really cool and turning it into something where I consider it a little bit cheese now. Every day I play with it more, I'm like, well, now it's more cheese, more cheese.
Agreed. I think it's a great set. I really love it. I love playing with it. I love the fantasy, but unquestionably, it's overtuned. Like the fact that you can crit is just dumb. Like that's obviously not what the crit is designed to do. Or the set is designed to do. So, but I do think that they've done a really good job of creating like a new fantasy that works. Like we've all had the DPS fantasy of like shooting stuff and doing lots of damage, and that's fine. And now we've got this tank fantasy that's like working. And obviously there's the healer fantasy, which is still a big kind of question mark. And, obviously people have done great builds on that. Like Marco obviously has done quite a few in the past. But, at the moment there isn't really all that much to heal in the sense that like on the PvE side, at least, there's not really functional tanks because the defense gear set means you're pretty much invulnerable as it is anyway. So like, I think there's still room to move in terms of how they build out these fantasies. But certainly I think the defense gear set's a really good step in that, in the right direction. So let's segue now to the big hot button item of this patch, the Alpha Bridge meta. The game is best when everyone is wearing exactly the same gear set and all the YouTubers are making exactly the same.
Hey, skill up. When's your Alpha Bridge video coming out?
So that's right. True or false, MarcoStyle? What's going on with this? What are your thoughts on the Alpha Bridge meta?
I think the big issue here is the uncomplicated talent and the way that it applies to other weapons as well. I think an easy fix to that, on the other hand, might also be to just not let Alpha Bridge work with weapon-specific talents, because the uncomplicated talent on the FAMAS, it's fine, it's balanced. It doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, and you have to trade off versus stability and accuracy versus damage. Now, on console, that's more often going to be stability. On PC, it's probably still going to be the damage. But the talent is fine. In combination with the Alpha Bridge, it's not fine because it's a flat 15% extra damage on your LVO, which is already incredibly accurate. So that is where the problem is, really. Other than that, I don't really think there's too much of an issue.
What do you think, Drew? What are your thoughts on this, man? You spent a lot of time in the dark zone.
Yeah, I don't think Alpha Bridge is overpowered. I really don't. I think what's overpowered is the assault rifles with the enemy armor damage. I think that's where the problem's coming from. Because obviously Alpha Bridge is only giving the player using it stats, right? It's not bringing anything to the team. So I think doing more damage with that build is okay. Having the 6 talents, you have the 5% extra damage, you have the increased healing speed, but it's all stuff that are only affecting you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Predator's Mark where you can slow someone down. It's not like Sentry's Call where you can give the whole team 15% extra damage. It's not like Hunter's Faith where you can give your whole team a shield. Like, it's nothing that can help your team. You're only doing more damage yourself. So I think the real problem is just the enemy armor damage with the way it works with everyone running like mitigation and how strong mitigation is with the armor. I think like it's more of just like Marco said, the uncomplicated combination with the assault rifles already being super strong because of the 22% or 20% enemy armor damage or whatever. I think if armor gets a rework, I don't think that Alpha Bridge will really be that big of an issue. Obviously, they got to figure something out with uncomplicated, but I have a feeling that Alpha Bridge is going to get reworked in the future anyways, just because everyone's using it.
Yeah, I'm concerned about Alpha Bridge for kind of a similar reason, but also the combination of 6 talents. Now, we've already seen that it's broken the game. The FAMAS by itself with the uncomplicated isn't broken, but Alpha Bridge, because of the way the gear set works, you introduce that talent in, and then you have a broken meta. Likewise with Provident, right? They had to remove Provident completely because they had one-shot cheese where you could kill anyone in the Dark Zone no matter what.
That's so still in the
future. Well, yeah, if you had a legacy weapon, but like they had to take it off so it can't roll now because it would have consumed the Dark Zone. But basically, in the future, when they add weapon talents, what's going to break next? Because the combination of 6, like it's just more things that can go wrong.
Totally agree.
Yeah, they're going to rework it. I guarantee it.
I just feel like from a numbers perspective, it's always made sense to me that Alpha Bridge is too strong, right? If you look at the way that gear sets are currently balanced, they're generally balanced around the magic number of 15% bonus damage. As in, like, Sentry's Call gives your team 15% bonus damage. The Fire Crest buff gives you 15% bonus damage against targets affected by status, right? You have Alpha Bridge, which allows you to stack an additional 3 weapon talents on top of your base 3. And each of those talents are in the vicinity of 10 to 15% bonus damage themselves, like each talent. So mathematically, it always makes sense that Alpha Bridge is going to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest gear sets. So I think the entire model
only
of that...
for damage.
Only
Alpha
for damage.
Bridge has no
Absolutely.
utility whatsoever.
Absolutely correct.
That was my argument. Like,
absolutely,
that's all it does.
When it comes to PvP, right, it's about killing your target. And obviously, when it comes to a team, you need to have shields, you need to have heals, and all that sort of stuff. But if we're talking about pure damage, which is what those sets like Firecrest or Sentry, what they're designed to do, then I really have... It's just always made sense to me that it's just been too strong. Always, So, I don't know. I don't think it's just a case of... like, let's just fix FAMAS, and I think that there's actually some broader work that needs to be done to that gear set to bring it into line.
It's actually preventing diversity right now, though. The hard thing, I try to put myself in the shoes of someone who maybe doesn't play this game as often and uses the matchmaking tool. But if you matchmake into a group and you just have 3 other people that are running DPS Alpha Bridge and they just run off by themselves and shoot things in the face, like there's no strategy, there's no synergy, there's no tactical, play, nothing like that. Like nobody's running healer, everybody's just got their selfish DPS build, and that's what Drew was saying, and it's 100% right. Alpha Bridge only benefits you, and everyone is only benefiting themselves, taking what could be a very tactical, very strategic game and turning it into third-person Call of Duty.
Yeah.
For sure.
That wouldn't differ though. Even if Alpha Bridge got taken out of the game, everybody would just be running Predator's Mark or whatever next DPS set would be the best.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
that
probably
would still be the case.
That's probably a good segue then to talk about the current state of the DZ and how you guys are finding it. General commentary on, because I remember people were saying that 1.4 PvP was like the best PvP since the beta.
Yeah,
everyone was loving it, and then now it's kind of like, where are we at? So, Drew, what do you think about that?
It's not as good as 1.4. The enemy armor damage is it makes it so that the gunfights are very random. Like either you'll shoot somebody and they'll die instantly, like you won't even see their health bar go down, they'll just get deleted. Or you shoot someone, they get low, they pop a med kit, they pop a booster shot, and all of a sudden they're at 2 million, toughness, and you're shooting them, and all of a sudden you're seeing the tons of damage that you were doing a second ago turn to like 1/5 of that. And those player talents always existed, right? But at least in 1.4 you could kind of wait that out. But now with everyone running 50% enemy armor damage, you just get shredded instantly. Like I had a build where I had almost 500k toughness, and it didn't matter. I was still getting absolutely deleted in the Dark Zone.
You need a healer, bro. You need a healer.
Yeah, no, it definitely would help. But I think that the time to kill in PvP needs to be more consistent. It's either, like I said, either you're shooting someone and they're not taking damage at all, or you're shooting someone and they're flopping in a quarter of a mag. So it's
the funny thing is that, and I have to call us to account on this, that forever we've all been saying, wouldn't it be cool if assault rifle damage didn't just work in PvE, it also worked in PvP, and all these stupid YouTubers, man, so we have to call it out and be like, well, what's wrong with this? Because we've asked for this forever. Is it a case of just, well, now that it's here, we realize that it sucks, or is it a case of the way that it's been implemented is incorrect? I mean, Arekkz, have you got any thoughts on that?
It's the armor, dude.
Yeah, well, it goes back to armor, right? It goes back to just armor just isn't correctly implemented. I mean, for example, if armor existed as a shield, then obviously it would be a lot more obvious as to what that talent would do. It would basically be useful for when you're burning through shield, and the second that shield doesn't exist, then it has no utility. But or alternatively, if you didn't have armor, then assault rifles wouldn't need that, and you would then give them something else. It's just I think it still boils back to armor. It's a weird kind of armor health amalgamation just doesn't work, so it just needs to be clearer.
You don't have the choice to go for enemy armor damage either. It's a minor stat, so you pretty much always can pick it up without any trade-offs.
Yeah.
It's just an additional damage multiplier on top of what we had in 1.4. We don't have to give up skill power on the mask. If anything, armor should have been a major stat, but then it would have gone in the way with how armor worked. Yeah, no, they tried that out, but then people had to choose between armor and couldn't give up on the armor because armor was still too powerful.
Yeah.
But now you spec into it without any trade-off, so I just don't think it was ready yet. The game wasn't ready to get enemy armor damage in PvP yet.
No, agreed.
For sure. So outside of Alpha Bridge and, generally speaking, other thoughts on PvP and where it's balanced and how we feel about it now? Any other commentary?
All right.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's as good as 1.4.
We need more fire turrets. No, just kidding.
Mate, people were getting angry when they about Micro's build. They're like, no, there's gonna be more in the dark side.
We need a car-sized fire turret that can move.
You can't even wait it out anymore.
Yeah,
it's a struggle.
You flame drone that follows
you
you
hit
around.
somebody at DZO3 from DZO6. That's what this game needs, man.
I used to be able to use the energy bar to remove the status effect. I can't. There's no time for it anymore. You just get shredded with the EAD.
No,
that's true. That's very true. Yeah, I'm on console, so it's a little bit different. I don't really use consumables anyway because you have to kind of go into the wheel. But on PC, the time to kill is so short that and also you can have a status effect reapplied to you directly after it's already been cleansed. So you can get rid of the status effect and then have it immediately reapplied to you, and it's well, why did I even eat that? I wasn't even doing anything during that duration.
That's annoying.
So that's something that needs to be worked on. I don't know how they would change it, but it's something that's got to be addressed.
Immunizer, done.
Dude, when I don't
immunizer
know
as large as DZO2. That's how big it is.
I put the immunizer down and it just gets shot, and I'm just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, you have to put it down in the
Thanks,
right
Marco.
spot.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well,
you have to glitch it into entire.
I'm sorry I don't have all the nerd angles. You're gonna throw it in this back guy's the bed of his truck.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what you do, man. In the tires, in the corners. You can even stuck it on top of roofs if you're on the underground. Nobody will find it there.
This is a very good segue for us to talk about what's next for PvP, because the developers have already said that patch 1.6 is going to be that PvP focused patch. They're hoping that it does for the PvP game what patch 1.4 did for the PvE game, which is a very, very tall order given the current state of PvP. So I'm wondering, what are the sort of big ticket items that we really feel like Redstorm and Massive need to be focused on? So Arekkz, did you want to kick us off on that with your thoughts?
I mean, one of the biggest things. It's a bit of a kind of broad thing to kind of talk about, but it's going to need balance, right? I mean, there are so many people that just don't want. I mean, obviously a large chunk of us, play PvP and whatnot, but there's a lot of people out there that just don't go in the dark zone because they don't enjoy it. They don't enjoy the way that PvP works. They don't necessarily enjoy the balance, and also they don't necessarily like the dark zone because they're not there to do PvP. So I feel like if it's going to be a PvP patch, right, it kind of needs to be it needs to give PvP players stuff that they want to do. So I don't know whether that comes through specific modes you can kind of go into, or specific zones or something like that, or whether it's just like a a different thing entirely. But I feel like I mean balance is going to be above all else. It just needs to happen, right? Because if you really want people to come back in the dark zone, I mean, this is one of the most important things. Imagine if like in a perfect environment we had like a 1.4 kind of feel or like a beta kind of feel to it. A lot of people that kind of just don't go in the dark zone because they know they're not finely tuned or they know they haven't necessarily got the right gear. They might start considering setting foot back in, because with the introduction of leaderboards, right, and the notion that there's loot tied to that, and there's things that people can kind of go for, and the fact that those things aren't necessarily to sort of incentivize trolling, things just like going around killing bosses, going around doing things like that, then I think there's kind of scope to get a lot more people feeling like they want to go back in the dark zone. And I feel like if they go back in and they feel like it's a nice balanced environment, you might get a lot more people PvPing anyway. So I think above all else, it has to happen, right?
Let's continue, because we're going to continue this discussion. There's a lot to say, but let's just pause on that leaderboards point. The leaderboards announcement was made in the last state of the game. What do people think about leaderboards? Chris, have you got thoughts?
It's tricky the way they implement it. I've heard some people talking about how it could be used as a tool to troll, right? Depending on what they incentivize, depending on what is shown on those leaderboards, it could have a positive or negative impact. I have the utmost faith in them to do it in a positive way, so I'm not really concerned about that. I definitely won't really be on them. I kind of say this on my live streams. I'm not going to be on the leaderboard, so it doesn't really apply to me, but it's going to bring a lot of, the top tier of PvP players. It's going to give them something that makes it more rewarding. So, likewise, some people are sick of being in the dark zone. There's no point in, fighting players anymore. You don't need the gear. All you're doing is killing people that aren't prepared because you have your perfect Alpha Bridge build. And then, what do? You do tournaments, you do 1v1s, whatever. This is going to give them something that they can do. This is going to give them some other way to compete and show their prowess. So I think it's a really, really good thing, but it has that potential to not be good. So I'm a little bit nervous.
Marco, what do you think?
I think hackers, man. Hackers been back. Hackers been back for a long time, and it seems like they ain't going away.
What did you
hackers,
say?
Man.
Oh, hackers. Sorry, I didn't hear
hackers,
you. Yeah, hackers.
Yeah.
Okay. You think that you think leaderboards are gonna invite more hackers?
I think the hackers are gonna be on top of the leaderboards.
Wait, no, but I thought about this the other day. I thought that's actually a good thing, because then it shows not because the hackers get to win, because if a hacker jumps to the top of the leaderboard, it's going to be very obvious that they've hacked. So if anything, leaderboard's going to be a much easier way to identify who's hacking, and then just straight out ban them. It'll be like, oh, look at me, I'm at the top of the leaderboard. Oh wait, hold on a minute, I've got 1 million more points than anyone else. Ban. So just straight ban them. It's going to be a great banning tool.
So it's not really a leaderboard list. It's a.
Oh yeah.
They're not going to implement at source cheat detection. They're just going to implement leaderboards. They're going to be like, we got this, guys.
They'll be like, hey guys, I got 1 million points this week. Ha ha ha. You know what you got? You got a ban as well.
All right. Well, let's.
What I'm more meant with that is I've seen the same cheaters. Like, for example, this bullshit guy or whatever. Like, all those players, they've been hacking for I don't know how long, since 1.4 launched or something, and they're still playing right now. I still get threaded by them every once in a while.
But don't worry.
And it just makes me worried.
I got banned. It's fine though, guys. It's fine.
Why are you still playing?
I got banned.
Yeah.
Anyway, I interrupted you. Go, Marco. Go.
No, that was all I had to say.
Right,
just hope they fix the hacker issue, man.
Yeah, sure. And Drew, are you interested, because you're someone that spends a lot of time in the dark zone, are you attracted to the idea of a leaderboard?
Yeah, I think it's a good step in the right direction. As far as trying to make the game a little more competitive. I think the game needs to be a little bit more competitive than it is. However, I really hope it's not only rewarding people who kill rogues and do SHD activities where kill this many rogues or that, because it's bad enough as it is. I go into a server and we go rogue, and all of a sudden all these people are sneaking out of the cracks, coming from every angle and just pouncing on us 20v4.
But isn't that the design though?
But no one's going rogue recently just because of how punishing the EAD is, and how you have groups coming out of the woodworks with tactical link and stuff. But I just hope it doesn't push people less people to go rogue, because then there won't be any PvP. I think that we need organized PvP like the Crucible and Destiny. I've been saying that with every single patch. There needs to be how you queue in for survival. There needs to be a way where people who want to PvP can queue in and play against other players who want to PvP. That will fix a large amount of the problems in the dark zone with people who just want to PvE and just want to farm gear, and that's fine. And then if you want to go in the dark zone and you have that 4v20 experience, that's cool, because that's a choice. But currently for PvP, we don't have a choice. That's it. You know what I mean? We need another option for PvP. I want to be able to queue in and fight other people who want to PvP and get rewards like after the game, like you do in survival. I think that'd be cool.
Chris, what are your thoughts on how the PvP experience needs to evolve in patch 1.6?
Just to touch on what Drew said, I've witnessed that happen. I've witnessed like 15 players standing around him clapping on the PTS, and he was like, he'd go rogue, and then 15 people would shoot him all at the same time. Now that happens a lot. People will like, maybe it's, recognizability because of name or whatever, but a lot of people will end up standing outside a checkpoint just waiting, and nobody does anything. They all just wait for the one group or the one person to go rogue that's like, well, okay, I'll do it. So right now we have a really stagnant PvP environment. And I would much rather, instead of leaderboards, have an arena, even if it's just a little box where 4 people can go in and then only 2 come out or something. Like, I don't even care. That doesn't have to be covered.
The box DLC.
Sumo wrestling, dude. Everyone just goes and smacks each other.
Any kind. So
yeah,
I just really would like to see an option. This is right in line with what Drew said. Of an arena or of an area where PvP players can go, because it would suck out all those people that are going in specifically to PvP, because when I decide to flag on another player, when I flag rogue, I'm forcing that player to participate in an activity that is fun for me but not fun for them, and there is no alternative. So I would just love to see an alternative where I don't have to make someone else's day bad to make my day good.
MarcoStyle, thoughts, man? PvP, what's next?
Well, they'd have to rework the game because I'm imagining this PvP arena, right? I'm seeing this map of New York City. I don't know, maybe Bryant's Park. Maybe we'll have a PvP arena in Central Park or whatever. Well tuned. What am I seeing here? I'm seeing 8 agents fighting in circles around each other, hip firing each other, stealing each other's guns and each other's asses. That's what I'm seeing right now. So for there to be any competitive PvP whatsoever, just the slightest, they would have to rework that entire thing first. There is no way I'm gonna play that kind of PvP in a queue all day long. It's just not.
They would have to. They would have to like scrap like player talents, resistances. Like everyone should have like the same base stats, kind of like the Crucible and Destiny, how they strip you from your PvE stats, like your armor and stuff. Everyone has like the same armor.
But how could
they would have to do it like that.
How could you do that?
Look
though?
at survival
like,
and look at how PvP works there. People are still running around each other with fucking pistols. Doesn't matter.
Well, it wouldn't be like I think if they did like an arena, it wouldn't be like gear sets or anything. It would just be like running.
No, but look at survival when people are fighting each other there. You have no skills, you have no weapons, you just have the pistol. You have no different stats from each other, no talents, no nothing. And people are still hip firing around each other. That's
but I mean, in that defense, I mean, I appreciate for a cover-based shooter, the whole kind of running around in circles, hip firing is a bit of a ridiculous thing to watch. But when you like realistically think about just like games in general, like you have like even an FPS, like if you come out around a corner and suddenly someone's there, the first thing you try and do is like either like crouch to the ground or jump around in circles or something like that to try and sort of dodge them and stuff. So I don't think circling is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's more so like if you had a normalized model, I mean, as Drew was saying, like you kind of go in, whether it be one of those things where like the normalized model is right, no matter what stats you have, like you have X amount of toughness, X amount of firearms, X amount of skill power, and the only things that really matter are like your individual gear set bonus. Like not necessarily. I mean, that would be a bit of a sticky thing because of course if you have like a damage bonus, so maybe you'd have to kind of like lean more towards. Or maybe adopt a loadout system. I mean, games do this, right? You go into things like Titanfall, Call of Duty. You pick from X number of loadouts. Maybe there are just for if you were to go down.
The loadouts thing I think is interesting.
Yeah, if you were to go down like I'm going to queue for PvP, then you have like 5-10 different loadouts, and they're spec'd out and they're all balanced. And then that when people are going, they're on even footing. I mean, that could be kind of cool. I mean, yeah, you're obviously not going to avoid the running around in circles, hip firing, but it's the game it is.
But right? I think that's such an important point, though, because I think the PvP in this game is dumb, and I've always said that. No offense to anyone that loves the PvP in this game, but I personally do not enjoy it at all. Because to me, the spectacle of like watching the way people run around each other in circles while they're waiting for their weapons to reload, or they're like dodge rolling out the way of everything, just looks utterly ridiculous. And there's not enough skill cap in that, So like, and for me, the biggest issue is the fact that when I'm in cover, I'm actually at a disadvantage because I'm a stationary target that is much easier to hit, particularly in the head. Right, more than anything else, there's almost no benefit to standing in cover because there's in my view, there's actually a disadvantage, right? Everyone else gets to run around like crazy, like dodge rolling and doing whatever else. Whereas if I'm actually using cover in a cover-based game, I become a stationary target, much easier to hit. So I think the core of the experience needs to be built around the idea that you are in cover, and it needs to be safer to be in cover. It needs to be like interesting and beneficial to do that rather than a disadvantage. Otherwise, I think this game is always going to be as ridiculous as it currently is. And I think
I think weapons could use a lot of, weapons could use a lot more accuracy and stability when in cover. So when somebody's running closer to you, you can actually hit him a lot easier. Maybe
I think the speed.
I
think the speed of this game in terms of PvP doesn't work either, because of the fact that it's a third-person game. Like it's harder to control and be precise with a third-person camera. It's a fact, you know. Whereas in first person, you get this tremendous precision that you're able to achieve. Anyone that's watched Overwatch, CS:GO, any proper competitive shooters, like, wow, that's amazing. You do not get the same thing on a third-person shooter, because you're constantly trying to manage both the camera and your character and the reticle at the same time. So the fact that PvP moves so quickly makes it almost impossible to like properly hit your target. Like it's just that part of it, I think, is a complete mess.
I also had some ideas about more status effects, but then negation and cover. But go ahead, Drew.
I never thought I'd call for this in any video game, because in the games that it has been in, it's frustrated me like crazy. But I think a huge thing that would help that would be stopping power, like it is in CS:GO or Gears of War, where if you're running in the direction of where the bullets are coming from, it slows your movement. So that would promote like cover based play a lot more.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not when you're in combat, you just shouldn't be able to run. I don't know. I'm not saying that's the right solution. I don't know.
Think about it. If you're shooting someone and it's slowing them, like they're not going to run in the open anymore and just do like the circle jerk thing that they do, because it's going to slow them, which is going to allow you from cover hit more shots, and then that will make people play so much more tactically, and it would even if it's a little bit, just to keep people from doing that strafe thing that they do, where it's almost impossible to hit them.
Yeah, I play a fair amount of Rainbow Six Siege, which is like awesome, by the way. And man, like it's so slow, that game. It's so tactical. And obviously I'm not proposing it to be anywhere near as slow in the Division, because I just don't think that would work. But I feel like this is a tactical shooter. It's a tactical RPG shooter. And the idea of slowing down combat and more decision making in combat, deciding when to use your ability, deciding when to reposition yourself, that sort of stuff like really interests me in this game, and I would love to see the game move more towards that direction than more towards the direction of as Chris said a moment ago, like a third-person Call of Duty, because that does not interest me in the slightest. Like,
well, because one of the issues as well with it is that what they currently don't have is, and this might well come through modes, is that you're effectively trying to do PvP or multiplayer in a map that was not designed for multiplayer. You think about any successful
100%.
Any successful things, like you look at Gears of War, right? Because I look at Gears of War a lot when I think about this, because you move a lot, you do have a lot of there are fights out of cover in Gears of War. You still use cover, yes, but typically you tend to use cover a lot more so in Gears of War to like hide until someone gets close, so you can then pop out and shotgun them. But they're all maps designed around it, right? And that's one of the important things. Whereas like Division, for example, we're in an open world which isn't designed for that. It's like you look at like World of Warcraft with like Battlegrounds versus the PvP modes. The arenas are finely tuned for that kind of engagement. Battlegrounds, this open, kind of messy environment, and while it's fun, it's also a lot more like probably like Battlegrounds is probably a lot more like comparable to say like Division as it exists right now versus. Yeah, so like if they did in 1.6 introduce like PvP like a queue, and they made like condensed versions of the city where they shuffled around the geometry, and you actually had proper multiplayer created maps, that would probably encourage the kind of cover based nature. People would still come out to have fights, but they would duck in and out because that. So I think that's potentially one solution.
Totally. I have one question for you guys, and before we wrap up, and it's just an indulgence. There's so much griefing in the Dark Zone. People really hate the Dark Zone in terms of the attitude that players bring to it. Clapping over corpses and what people say over VoIP, what people say in all chat, right? One game, I played Heroes of the Storm after playing years of League, and one of the things that I know that they did, or at least I think they did at the beginning, was that they disabled all chat. So you couldn't speak to members of the opposition. All right, and so that basically to reduce trolling. My question to you guys is, what if in the Dark Zone there was no more emotes, no more VoIP chat, and no more all chat? You could only chat amongst your party. What would you guys think of that idea?
Absolutely, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
already
On
exists,
Xbox,
though.
when they disabled
Hang on,
VoIP,
I
that was
gotta
the
say,
happiest.
Chris, sorry, let Chris go first.
Just really quickly, on Xbox, when they disabled VoIP, that was the happiest I've been in the Dark Zone. I don't think that you should be able to talk to or clap on or anything like that. I mean, it's just a tool to piss people off. That's all it's used for.
Sure. Marco, you gonna say something?
No, if you're gonna turn VoIP off, then the Dark Zone, you can also meet other players and team up with them, right? You can also get to meet other players there. It's one of those environments that allows that. If you take away the chat or if you take away the VoIP, then you take away that whole aspect of the DZ, and thus you take away that.
Yeah,
I don't know,
social
it
aspect.
becomes more
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally, and I totally see the other side of that as well. Like it is
also
cool.
funny sometimes when somebody else gets salty. I mean, I can laugh about that. I don't mind. Like, it's fun.
There's an entire genre of YouTube video about that, you know? Like, exactly.
No, I mean, if somebody gets really angry and you kill him 10 times, then that's fun for me as well because you get to hear him scream through his mic. I don't mind.
Okay, I can't wait to see the comment section now. It's going to be great. You're going to get as much love as Terry did, that guy on State of the Game, the Redstone developer. They're like, he's the reason why DZ PvP is so shit because he loves being an asshole in the DZ, you know? Oh, Reddit. All right, guys. Look,
bring it on.
I feel like we need to wrap this up now. So maybe if we could just have one wish list item for patch 1.6. What's the one thing that they absolutely must get right in PvP in patch 1.6? Arekkz.
I can't say raids, can I?
You cannot say raid.
Damn!
Good try.
Damn!
Good try. I like that you tried to slip that in.
Just fix armor. Please fix armor.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Drew?
Balanced arena where there's no gear sets or no, like bonuses to anyone else. Like you pick a gun and you have an objective and the fun comes through the objective and not so much of what gear set you're running. So just balance PvP in arena, please.
Nice. Marco?
Just stat rolls on gear. Make it so I can spec into anything else than, armor.
Chris?
I would say armor, but since it's been done, role responsibilities, like proper strategic role responsibilities.
Yeah, cool.
What about you?
And for me, I think, sorry, Arekkz?
No, I was going to say, what about you?
Yeah, I just, for me, for PvP, one of the things, and it's a bit fringe, it's not the number one perhaps, but something hasn't been said. I'm really interested in them creating means by which I'm able to understand and predict encounters a lot better than I currently am. Right now, when I shoot something, I have no idea if it has like all the toughness in the world or it's a glass cannon. I have no idea what kind of abilities they're running. It's literally just a human being and they could have any kind of power behind them. And that is, I think, bad from a strategic perspective because it means that I can't sort of be smart before I go into that fight. I just need to hope for the best as soon as I pull the trigger. And I think that that's sort of like the antithesis of good, strong, competitive play. So I personally would like to see them build out some means by which we can kind of understand who we're about to fight so that we can make smart decisions before an encounter, not just in the middle of it. But anyway, that's just my preference. But look, thank you so much, everyone who has joined today. It's been really great having the old favorites. And Chris, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
No, of course, absolutely. So we do these podcasts every major patch, so you can definitely expect one in patch 1.6, which the developers have indicated is coming early next year. We don't know when. But for now, everyone, I hope you have a fantastic Christmas. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Marco, Arekkz, Drew, and Chris, you guys are all the best.
Oh, thank you for having us.
No worries, man.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Take care now. Bye-bye.